sometimes all it takes to disarm someone and to form that genuine connection that can transform both of your lives is being willing to put down our own sword.
Welcome to the One Last Thought podcast, bite-sized wisdom and leadership lessons where people aim to answer one simple question. If there is one life lesson you would want to pass on to the next generation, what would it be? I'm your host, Ido Singer. I come from the world of professional basketball and am currently a Division I college basketball coach who believes that your time is valuable. This is why I've created these short leadership lessons you can learn from in under 10 minutes, utilizing the thoughts and wisdom of some of the best leaders I know. We have two great leaders sharing their thoughts with you today. Padmini Nidmulu is a TEDx speaker and the co-founder of Lean In Agile for Women. She is passionate about transforming organizational culture. Max Claypo is a William H. Danforth Scholar, Civil Scholar, and TEDx speaker from Birmingham, Alabama. Let's dive right in.
So I spent most of my childhood arguing and being angry and defending my beliefs and identities from people around me who I grew up with who disagreed with them or in some cases didn't even believe in them.
With the overwhelming disruptions that are thrown at us all the time in the spaces of technology, artificial intelligence on one side, and cultural shifts, health hazards, global chaos on the other side, one last thought I would have for the next generation is to reach out, stretch, and support one another.
And I think that over time that made me really resentful. It made it really difficult for me to connect with people who didn't believe what I did, whether it was political, whether it was of a similar sexual orientation, religious, things like that.
As we cocoon ourselves more and more into ourselves with the rise of digital interventions, we forget that the most critical aspect of our lives, human connections, contribute to our well-being physically and emotionally.
And so what I think I'd like to pass on, what my one last thought that if I could leave the world with just one thing remaining behind me, would be radical empathy.
It's an immediate need and not a nice to have element of our lives anymore.
The idea that in order to connect with someone that we disagree with, we have to start by understanding that that person's worldview was shaped by a set of life experiences just like ours was. Radical empathy is choosing that connection with that person before we choose judgment.
Supporting one another can be a very abstract and many of us might not even know where to start.
It's the act of recognizing that yes, perhaps I see this person in a really specific, really negative way, but what if I set those judgments aside for a moment and I started by asking them why they believe what they believe, not just telling them what they should believe. The act of choosing to suspend our judgment while still maintaining our own identities, values, and integrity is incredibly difficult. But it's something that we have to start doing because frankly, too much is at stake for us not to.
Set aside 1% of your time towards reaching out to your community. And this includes your own betterment as well because you are an integral part of the community.
I found that it's transformed my relationships, both romantic and personal. It's changed the way I viewed politics and policy and issues within my own communities. And it's something that I think we all can do, but it's also a choice.
It's a fraction of your time, but it helps you focus on a goal. And 1% of a week's time is about 100 minutes, which is less than a couple of hours a week.
And it seems like a wickedly simple concept. However, as usual, the devil is in the details.
This is tiny, but it's very easy and it's doable. It feels less intimidating to set a tiny goal as 1%, and it's more manageable.
You see, we have been tricked into thinking that our differences have to stop us from seeking a connection with each other, that they have to stop us from finding similarities and sharing common ground.
And in the beginning, your improvements will be so small as to seem practically non-existent. But if you're patient, gradually and ever so slowly, you'll start to notice the improvements that you're able to impact in the community or for yourself.
What I've learned over probably the past 15 years or so is that breakdown in connection is what stops us from being whole as a community, as partners, as friends even.
And that's it, just 1%. And this might not seem like much, but these 1% increments start compounding on each other.
Think about, when was the last time you had a conversation with someone that you really disagree with about that thing, whatever it may be? And I bet it's a while, and that makes a lot of sense, right? We actively avoid what we don't understand, and we really, really try and avoid what we don't like. But those small and intentional everyday changes to our mindset can fundamentally change how we interact with each other and with the world.
It might feel less exciting than chasing a huge win or the next shiny object, but its results will be much stronger and much more sustainable. It can help multiply the cumulative time contributed to the community or for your own goals, and it consequently amplifies the impact that such a collective effort can have on the community at large.
Radical empathy is something that can save us. It can empower us. It can lead us to do greater things. It can lead us to new doors and connections that we never thought were possible before. But it's a choice. And it's a choice that we have to start making because, frankly, too much is at stake for us not to.
This was episode 18 of the One Last Thought podcast. I want to thank my guests, Padmini Nidmulu and Max Claypo. Thank you both for giving me your time and thoughts, and for believing in this show. This show is yours as much as it is mine. If you'd like to find some exclusive offers, giveaways, and opportunities to further connect with the guests you heard on this episode, please check the show notes. You never know what goodies our guests may have waiting for you there. Please support our guests by connecting with them directly through those links. They're waiting to hear from you. You can find me on the internet at One Last Thought Pod on everything. That's the number 1, Last Thought Pod, everywhere. I also set up a special voicemail for you, the listeners, to check in with me. Feel free to reach out and say hi, tell me what you liked about the show, and even more importantly, how I can do better. You can say whatever you want. I want to hear your thoughts and feelings. We're at 919-335-3137. It would mean the world to me to hear from you. If you have a life lesson you would like to share, please reach out on social media, leave a voicemail, or email me directly at onelasthoughtpod@gmail.com. I want to thank you, the listeners. If you're still listening to this, you are obviously invested in this journey, so why not spend a minute, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, and maybe even leave a review. I couldn't even begin to explain how much that would mean to me and to the continuation of this show. Thank you for listening. Until next time, stay inspired.